information, visit beavercountyradio.com.
Jimmy Fela is coming to Pittsburgh. Join St. Barnabas Charities to honor Jimmy Fela at their Founders Day dinner celebration on Wednesday, April 16th. Fela is a New York City cab driver turned stand-up comedian and is the host of Fox Across America News Radio. Event proceeds benefit the St. Barnabas Free Care Fund. Buy tickets online at stbarnabascharities.com or call 724-625-3770.
Are you frustrated by high copays for your generic drugs? Stop overpaying and start saving. Discover Forward RX, your local cost-plus pharmacy in New Brighton. At Forward RX, we believe in transparency and affordability. No insurance middlemen, no inflated prices, just the true cost of your medication plus a simple fixed markup. Join the Forward RX family today and experience the difference. Check out our medication prices online at fwdrx.com or give us a call for a price quote. Forward RX. Come for the savings and stay for the service.
You're listening to 99.3 FM, presented by St. Barnabas, in addition to 1230 WBVP Beaver Falls. Welcome to the Best of Beaver County, presented by St. Barnabas, a weekly segment dedicated to putting the focus on the amazing things and the amazing people behind them in Beaver County. The Best of Beaver County is sponsored by and content is provided by St. Barnabas. The show airs every Thursday from 11 to 11:30 on WBVP, WMBA, 99.3 FM, and Facebook Live. Now, with no further ado, let's welcome host Mike Romai to introduce today's program.
It's the Best of Beaver County on the St. Barnabas Radio Network. I'm Mike Romai, and we just get ready, sit down, relax, because this is going to be an enjoyable half hour. We're going to learn not only about Stangl's Bakery in Ambridge, but we're going to get a history lesson of Ambridge and the Stangl's Bakery and family. Lorianne Stangle Burgess is with us. She is the granddaughter, the present owner of Stangl's Bakery, and I know it's disappointing for her because the last time she was on camera, perhaps with somebody, was Tom Hanks, and here she is, WBV, and it's just me, and that's not very exciting at all. Lorianne, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for having me.
It's good to talk with you, and we've just been talking for a couple of minutes, but the history of the Stangle family just goes back generations in Beaver County and in the Ambridge area.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about it.
Well, in 1897, my great-grandfather came over from Austria. He was from the Bohemian region of Austria, and he came to Homestead in 1897. In 1899, he brought his wife over, and they started the Stangl's Bakery, the Paul F. Stangle Baking Company in Homestead in 1899, around there. And then, unfortunately, at one point, she contracted tuberculosis, and they went to a sanitarium with her in Arizona. And when he came back, he opened the bakery in Ambridge in 1919 with his two sons, Al and Paul. And Paul was my grandfather, and that would be in 1919.
Wow. And as far as all this is concerned, now you said your great-grandfather came from the Bohemian area in Austria. Mm-hmm. Now, explain that to me, because when I think of Bohemians, I think, Ginsberg and these poets and stuff like that.
Well, it's Bohemia. It's really complicated because the Hungarians and the Austrians were always fighting. Mm-hmm. And actually, right before my great-grandfather came here, he was in the military, and that was why he left.
Okay.
He left Austria was because he didn't want to fight in a war anymore. Mm-hmm. So that's why he came to the United States, because he wanted freedom from fighting all the time and fighting off the Hungarians. Who ultimately actually took over, and in 1899, to get his citizenship in the United States, he had to denounce the King of Hungary and the King of Austria to get citizenship in the United States.
So we think we have political battles today, huh?
Yes,
all over the world.
Yeah.
What made him decide on Western Pennsylvania?
Many of like his fellow countrymen were coming here. Homestead was full
The
of
mills?
yes, yeah. The Slavic people were coming here by the boatful to the Carnegie mills in Braddock and Homestead.
Yeah, okay. So that makes sense. And then your great-grandmother, you said, contracted tuberculosis.
Yes.
And at that time, it was a deadly disease.
Yeah, I mean,
Very
they could
much
just
so.
ease her suffering, but it was pretty much a death sentence.
Sanitariums, things of parts of history that nowadays we talk about vaccinations and things like that, and people not wanting to get a vaccination. But back in the day, if you contracted tuberculosis, it was pretty much a death sentence.
Yes, it was.
Yeah. And how was he able to? I mean, you've heard these stories over the years, right? How was he able to get back on his feet and open a bakery, another bakery?
Well, I mean, he had to put both his sons in orphanages while he took his wife to the sanitarium because they weren't sick. So they had to stay in Pittsburgh in a Catholic orphanage in, is it Bellevue? It's
Okay.
right by Camp Horn Road.
Okay.
That was the orphanage they had to stay in. And when he came back, he had, able-bodied sons, and there were three of them, so they kind of got back on their feet. They started Stangles Bakery in Ambridge,
You said-
and he remarried. He needed a
Sure.
wife, and
Yeah. Well, you say they were able-bodied, and back in those days, if you were 7, 8, or 9 years old, you were able-bodied.
well, they were teenagers by then. It wasn't too bad of child labor.
So you go back and, he was in Austria, he was in the military, he wanted to get away from war, came to the United States. Where did the baking part of it come in?
We really have no idea.
Oh, is that right?
My grandfather actually had to hire a baker because the baking became such a large scale that he didn't even. He was more of an engineer. He built the buildings.
Okay.
He acquired the equipment. He fixed the equipment. He invented things, but he wasn't really a baker at heart. So by the time it got to his generation, my grandfather took it over. He just hired a baker.
Okay. His second wife didn't bake or anything like that?
No.
Well, where did all these great recipes come from?
Most of our recipes came from our baker, Scotty, who had come here from Scotland. And he would hire other bakers that were from other parts of Europe.
Yeah.
And they would all, meld their recipes into one brand.
Yeah, that must have been quite a kitchen area with different nationalities and accents and
Yes,
such.
yes, definitely.
And that was when you moved to Ambridge was what year?
That was 1919.
1919.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you're dealing with, at times, you're going to get into the Great Depression and so many other changes that have been going on society-wise.
Well, in 1929, when my grandfather struck out on his own in 29, my Uncle Al was still staying with his grandfather. And during the Depression, his children actually helped hand out bread on bread lines to people that were, didn't have jobs in the mill, or, if their
Jobs were
work
out of
slowed
work.
down, they were handing out bread. Yeah.
From the bakery?
Yeah.
They were doing the bakery thing.
Uh-huh.
So
It was like unsold, it wouldn't be
Like
like the fresh
day-old
bread.
stuff.
Yeah, they would
Yeah.
hand out the free loaves of day-old bread, day-old pies, whatever they had.
But I'm sure that helped a lot for
Yeah.
those people who were out of work and had families to feed.
Well, my mother's cousin Barb is still alive. She's in her 90s in Arizona, and she actually was telling me about the wonderful memories she had of helping people and giving out bread and baked goods on the bread line.
So social conscience
Yeah.
throughout the years for the Stangle family.
Yeah.
Wow, helping out. And in Ambridge, of course, well, whether it was Homestead or Ambridge, the steel industry was pretty much booming at those times.
Oh, yeah. After the Depression, they really came back. And my grandfather started his own bakery, the Stangle Bakery, in 29 at 528 Merchant Street. And I actually just posted a picture of it online on our Facebook page. But it's that was his first bakery because he wanted to be apart from his father, because that's how kids are.
Okay.
Kids,
Okay, yeah.
Kids want to be on their own.
I can do it better than you, Dad.
Yeah, exactly. And he kept his business separate until his father he developed stomach cancer in the 30s, and by 39 he had passed away, and they kind of had to merge the Paul Stangle Bakery and the Paul Stangle Baking Company and Stangle's Bakery together in 39.
Now, that was that a corner store? Because I have seen pictures, you might have even shown them, where the block building was built.
That was when they finally like brought the two bakeries together, and
And when did it get to the present location?
So you kind of skipped ahead.
This is your history.
Yeah, you skipped ahead a little bit.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Okay, so my grandfather moved out of 528 because they lived upstairs. In 45, he moved the whole family into the new constructed portion of 1210 Merchant Street, which is the big bakery where they did all the manufacturing.
Okay.
Because my grandfather wasn't really into the manufacturing, but since his father was, he moved into there and got into the manufacturing in 45.
Yeah.
And then there's pictures of like the steam shovels, and they added on to the smaller building. And by 1950, the building is what it is today, which is like the huge, not that it is today, but what it was at the height. The big manufacturing was really coming in the 50s.
Okay, so
and then
that was
he bought 572, which is where we are now, in 1952.
Okay.
And then he bought other satellite stores everywhere.
I'm imagining they still had streetcars back in those days.
No.
No, they didn't? 52?
No, streetcars were over in the 20s.
Oh. Yeah.
My mother does not remember streetcars. She's very clear that she was definitely born after the streetcars.
Okay, it would seem like I'm thinking you're talking about all these years, and I'm thinking dirt roads and streetcars and all that, early Ambridge, but goes to show you my history lessons.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't work out that way. You're talking about the manufacturing end of it. What is the manufacturing end of it? Because I think kitchens, you got ovens and you got flour and all kind of ingredients. But what is the manufacturing part of it?
Well, before Wonder Bread came out, like the white bread we have today with like all the dough conditioners and the softeners, bread was made the old-fashioned way, and they were just mass producing it the old-fashioned way and putting it into trucks, and they would have delivery routes, and they would go through neighborhoods, and he would stop on the corner, and they'd have these trays that came out of the truck, and you could buy the bread, or you could get pies, or you could get donuts out of the back of the truck, and before the outlet stores, and then he would start having stores in different parts. Like Aliquippa had a Stangles Bakery, West Aliquippa has Stangles Bakery, Crestmont, Hopewell, Quaker Village had one. There was one Northern Lights.
No kidding.
Yeah, he had eight bakeries at one time.
No, wow.
But all the baking was done in one central location.
Okay, and they would just truck it to the other places.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
and they would, just like a doctor making house calls, the Stangles Bakery would make house calls. You drive down the street and stop the truck, just like food trucks today.
Yeah, my father, before he even knew who my mother was, he lived in South Heights, and the Stangles truck would come to him, and the Stangles driver, knowing they didn't have a lot of money, would give him like the stale pies off the back of the truck. Wow. Because he was just, barefoot kid in South Heights that didn't have pocket change.
Oh, what a history. Now, when you got together over the years, now your brother was also involved, is also involved in the bakery at the time?
No.
No, he didn't get involved?
Not my brother.
Okay, but he was the engineer. He was an engineer at WMBA.
Oh, that's my father.
Your father?
My father was the engineer at WMBA.
Looked like a young man. Oh, well, you were.
Well, he was young
You were a
back
little
then.
baby back then.
Yeah.
Your father. Now, so did he get out of the bakery business to get into engineering?
Well, my mother was the baker. My mother's the Stangle.
Okay.
My father's the Burgess.
Okay.
And I think everybody gets drawn into the bakery.
Of course.
From the siblings to the spouses, everybody gets pulled in. The cousins.
Yeah.
And so everybody has bakery in them for at least 15 minutes. It's like fame.
But if you're
it's like the Andy Warhol fame thing. Everybody's a baker in our family for at least 15 minutes.
But the thing is, if you're a child in any of those families, boy, you make it out. Because if it's day old or, they can't use it, it's going to your house.
Also, you learn how to count working the penny candy case.
Oh, okay.
So that means you're on the other side of the penny candy case.
Okay.
And nobody notices when there's penny candy missing.
Lorianne Stangle Burgess is our guest, and we're talking about Stangl's Bakery, and we're learning all about the history of it. Who knew? Did you know there used to be 8 Stangle bakeries in Beaver County, all over, especially the lower end of Beaver County?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and still today, and we're going to talk more about the transitions they've made over the years and the family business, something that, it's been tough over the years for a lot of family businesses, but Lorianne Stangle is keeping up the tradition of Stangle's Bakery here in Beaver County, and we'll continue on the Best of Beaver County.
I'm Patty.
And I'm Bob. We're retired, and we live at St. Barnabas in the Village.
We used to have a house.
Lived in it for 40 years.
Raised our kids.
But it became too much. The upkeep, the stairs.
Moving seemed like such a hassle. We didn't even know where to start, so we didn't.
Until we met Cindy at St. Barnabas.
She talked us through our options.
Yeah, and she helped us with our move and all the arrangements.
There was so much stuff. Who knew we had 3 fondue pots?
But she made it easy.
So easy.
Now we enjoy ourselves.
Golf, the pool, new friends, shuttles to where we want to go.
The pub and the food.
So good.
There wasn't a long-term commitment or any large fees.
And they have a healthcare system on campus with doctors if we need it. The kids really like that.
The kids like to come and eat with us.
There's an easier, worry-free way to retire at the Village at St. Barnabas. Come visit us for a free and informative counseling session and personal tour.
I can't believe you waited so long.
I can't believe you waited so long.
Visit stbarnabashealthsystem.com or call 724-443-0700.
Lorianne Stangles Burgess is our guest on Beaver County, the Best of Beaver County show on St. Barnabas Radio Network. We're talking about Stangle Bakery in Ambridge. It is still there. How many years? 1919, so you're over 100 years.
Yeah, 106.
Yeah, very good.
In Ambridge.
In Ambridge.
We don't really know exactly how long it's been in business.
Okay.
But
yeah.
probably 120 years now.
And that is the family name, Stangles Bakery.
Uh-huh.
And it's become known over the years, especially in Ambridge, but all over Ambridge, Aliquippa. You're talking about South Heights and so many other areas down in that part of Beaver County. People know it all over the place. What was, was there a lot of competition for bakers over the years?
There were a lot of bakeries, but there were a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
sure. Yeah.
I mean, you had a bakery on almost every block of Merchant Street.
Is that right?
But, I mean, there were hundreds of people on every block of Merchant Street. So, it was a lot of business to go around. And my grandfather was friends with all the other bakers. And they actually had a group that they would meet, and they'd have meetings about what was going on in the baking industry. And there was they were all very good friends. It was not like, it was not competitive or mean-spirited ever.
No, but it seems like today, though, you might be the only one. Local bakers.
Well,
local bakeries.
In Ambridge, there's not a lot.
Well, I mean, you can go around. We can go around all Beaver County, Beaver Falls, New Brighton. I'm sure Monaca had their own. Everybody had. They no longer exist.
Yeah. Because
the big box stores came in and they bake the bread now, and you get processed foods everywhere. And you can't get home baked goods, but you've survived.
Yeah.
How have you done that?
Well, I mean, I bring my kids into work sometimes.
See, it's a family tradition.
My mother's a big part of it because she retired right when we opened, so she's there every single day. My cousin comes in 2 days a week and she helps out. So. And my kids are starting to learn. They're 14 and 12. So I mean, it's a family thing, and I don't have a lot of expectation of them sticking around, but
you never know.
Maybe
here you are. When did you take over the business?
2009.
Okay.
Yeah, my mother and I. We started before that. We were just doing craft shows, just to see, test the waters, because my Aunt Sue had retired a few years before. And when she retired, we started making lady locks in my mom's kitchen. And we started selling 50 lady locks. We'd sell 100 lady locks. And we'd go to craft shows and sell like 200 lady locks. So then 2009, we opened 572 back up again. And we sold out of donuts the first hour.
Yeah.
And then we sold out of lady locks. And we just, we've been busy ever since.
Wow. That's a great story because, especially at the holidays, people always say, where can you get good lady locks? You know, we need lady locks. They just don't make them like they used to. But
Well,
you
we
found that niche.
We were making the big ones, and my next door neighbor said, why don't you just make them little? You'd sell more. So my mom curses her for saying you should make the little ones because now we make, I mean, at
Thousands.
Christmas, we can make 100 dozen a day
Yeah. Wow.
and sell them all because we have lines of people and we have to turn people away because we can't keep up.
I remember, you talk about the bigger lady locks. I can remember when the lady locks used to be about this big, right? 6 or 8 inches long?
Yeah, well, yeah.
Yeah.
I should have brought some with me.
You still make them?
Oh, yeah.
That size? Yeah. And what is, we talk about processed food, and you talked about, you know, Wonder Bread and different things over the years. Processed, you know, it's all the same. You know, the only thing I remember about it, other than the bread, is we used to put the bags in our boots, our winter boots, to keep our feet dry. But there's still something to be said about the home-baked goods.
Yeah, the white bread kind of like really hurt my grandfather because he was still making the yeast raised bread and like with minimal ingredients, and then they come along with like the stuff that lasts for a month and doesn't get moldy, and that really put a
Sure.
It made life more difficult.
I have to ask, because you wonder when a business goes through that transition and modern day wonders come about, and you sit there and you think, well, our customers will still come to see us. Our customers, we can rely on our steady customers. But eventually they start to say, well, it's more convenient for us to go here and get this and that. What are some of the family discussions that go on in a family business like yours?
Well, I think our biggest problem wasn't, it turned out to not be the modern convenience food, but my grandfather died in 1968. And when he died, it was kind of like cutting a head off a chicken. And there was a lot of different family members that it would get thrown around like a hot potato who was going to lead the family. And it finally like just fell on my grandmother all the time. And she was getting older, and it wasn't as easy for her to adapt. And my Aunt Sue helped out, but then she would be at ends with my mother, and there were husbands involved,
sure.
and it was very difficult to. And then of course the mills dropped out, and like for about 10 years they kept it going, but then in the late 70s it just became too much of a fight for too little, and they just kept the one bakery open, and my grandmother ran it, and that was enough for her to keep going through the 80s, and then she passed away in 92. And then my Aunt Sue kept it going for about 10 more years until she kind of like gave up. She retired. And then after that, that's when my mother and I started making lady locks in her kitchen again. And just to see if we could, make it go again.
Yeah. And you did it, and you're still thriving today?
Yeah. I mean, we're comfortable.
Yeah. And we can't talk with you without also talking about Tom Hanks and A Man Called Otto. Is that the name of the movie? That they filmed in parts of in Beaver County and in your wonderful bakery.
Yeah. Well, back in 2020, we were like in the throes of COVID, and my husband passed away in October of 2020. So it was kind of like, do I keep going? Do I not? Because it's getting kind of difficult because we didn't know what was happening with COVID. And I had 2 kids that were still in elementary school, and they were taking a lot of my time. And a couple months after he died, I had a scout come into the bakery, and he's like, I can't tell you what I'm working on, but Tom Hanks is involved, and we want to use your bakery. And it was like, we want to use your bakery. We're not sure. We're going to look at some other places. Don't get your hopes up. And a couple months later, there were some bigger Hollywood people came in. The director came in. The set designer came in. Rita Wilson, the producer, who's married to Tom Hanks, she came in. Tom Hanks didn't actually come on the luxury bus of celebrity Hollywood people, but they all came in. They all looked at it. They liked my color scheme. That like nobody ever noticed my color scheme before they did.
Before they came. What was your color scheme?
It's light pink, burgundy, and like a light green.
Okay.
And after the movie, people would come in and be like, "Oh, did they paint all this?" And I was like, "No, it's always been that color."
It was that uniqueness to it that they chose. Yeah.
And but they ultimately chose our bakery out of like 3 or 4 different places around Pittsburgh. And they worked on it for a few months. They took the awning off the front because they wanted all the natural light to come in the front windows. They put the old STANGL'S sign back up that I couldn't get anybody to work on.
Did you have it?
Oh, yeah.
You had it in like the basement or in the back room somewhere?
It was laying on the awning still.
Oh, okay.
They took it off and put it on the awning.
Oh, okay.
And then they put it back on the awning. But there was a lot of work that contractors don't want to do, and they came in and they did it for us, and they made it really nice. They cleaned all the metal up so it looks brand new.
Very good. So, I mean, that was just a part of the deal.
Oh, yeah. It was a great part of the deal.
And you did get to meet Tom Hanks at one
I did,
point.
yeah. It was very nice.
Yeah, okay. And so did that give you kind of a resurgence? Did it give you a little more attention?
Yeah, it was even like a morale booster. Because at the time, because then we're coming out of COVID, and it was like a sign, you know, like this is to keep doing this.
Yeah. And COVID, how difficult was that? Did you have to close your store at the time, and did people come in during COVID?
They did. It was confusing. It was a lot of, you know, we cleaned. My mother is already like a sanitizing person, but it was just like a haze of sanitizer all the time because we didn't know like how far away to keep people, and we were sanitizing the cases constantly. My mother and I sanitized the money because we were afraid of getting sick, so we were like spraying the sanitizer everywhere.
Rubber gloves and masks and all that stuff. People coming in wearing masks.
Yep.
And all that stuff.
And we set a limit. We only had 5 people would come in at a time. So I mean. We adjusted.
Yeah, just like the history of Stangles going from Homestead to Ambridge and all the family members in between. You just have to make those adjustments, right?
Yeah.
It's part of doing business. And now you came out on the other side, and you said the sign when the Hollywood people came knocking and decided on your bakery that, hey, we're going to make it through this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like I was saying before about how my grandfather and his brother were in the orphanage when the tuberculosis took my great grandmother. After that was all over, my grandmother ended up giving toys to the orphans every Christmas because it was, you know, we made it through this, so we're going to, you know, pay it back. It's amazing. When you tell these stories about your family, and they have really been a part of that community and people's lives for so long now, over 100 years. Mm-hmm. That's an incredible family story. And you're continuing that tradition today. Yeah. I mean, we're all very civic minded, and we try to keep our prices so that everybody can afford us. And, we just grew up that way. What are your hours? We're open 7 to 2, Wednesday through Saturday. Okay. All right. Wednesday through Saturday. Do you still do things like bake wedding cakes or anything like that? Uh-huh. People can, and birthday cakes, and they can call and place orders? Yes. Still make bread? We only make bread at Easter. Okay. Why not? Ambridge, we've already got tons of orders for anise Pascha bread because nobody wants to make anise. Like the pizzelles, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. We have anise biscotti, anise pizzelles, and anise Easter bread. So you can get just about anything. You have a website. We have a Facebook page. Yeah, Facebook's the best. Okay, and that's where people can get attention. They can go to your Facebook page, Stangles Bakery, on Facebook. This is going to be on Facebook as well, so you can share it on your Facebook page where you're there talking, say hi, and all that stuff. What's future hold for you? Day to day.
It's a
Well,
day-to-day.
no, I mean, I have my cousin. She does a lot with the bakery. My daughter is getting more and more interested. My son does. I mean, it's,
Yeah. He's going to keep it in the family, and that's the way it should be.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I live next door, so.
Yeah. What is the most popular item? What do people come and want the most?
I mean, we sell a lot of Lady Locks.
Lady Locks. I can imagine.
I mean, our
that.
buttercream is like, it's got, we have got a really great recipe. So anything that we put buttercream in, people want.
Stop in Ambridge. Ambridge is having a rejuvenation of its own, the whole town. And so stop at STANGL'S when you're in that area. And I'm trying to think of anything else that I might have missed talking with you. But it's a fascinating story. There should be a movie made about the STANGL'S. Yeah. Well, thank you, Lorianne, for being with us.
I'll add that to my list of things to do.
Yeah, and she also part of the community on our sister station, the Beaver. You sponsor a song every Thursday.
Yes.
Correct.
And
this month was the Women's Month.
Yes, Women's History Month.
Yeah.
And all of my picks for this month had at least one member that was female, but the majority of them were female, like Murder for Girls and Century 3. They were very female heavy.
All right. Listen to that as well. Lorianne Stangles, thank you so much for being with us.
Well, thank you for having me.
It's been a pleasure talking with you and learning about your business. There's a lot more I'm sure we can learn, and you can as well when you go to Stangles in Ambridge. I'm Mike Romai with Lorianne Stangles on the Best of Beaver County on the St. Barnabas Radio Network.
Thank you for listening to the Best of Beaver County. St. Barnabas is pleased to have provided content and sponsorship for the program. Tune in this Sunday at 11:30 for an encore presentation of today's program on Beaver County Radio. And next Thursday at 11 for another edition of the Best of Beaver County on WBVP, WMBA, and 99.3 FM.
Jimmy Fallon is coming to Pittsburgh. Join St. Barnabas Charities to honor Jimmy Fallon at their Founders Day dinner celebration on Wednesday, April 16th. Fallon is a New York City cab driver turned stand-up comedian and is the host of Fox Across America News Radio. Event proceeds benefit the St. Barnabas Free Care Fund. Buy tickets online at stbarnabascharities.com or call 724-625-3770.